I never imagined that one laugh could shake my entire world. It started as an ordinary evening. My son, Armin, had brought home his fiancée, Sarah, to introduce her properly to the family. I had prepared my little living room with care, tea brewed, sweets laid out, and the smell of freshly baked cookies filling the air. I wanted to make her feel welcomed, to show the kind of love and warmth that our family always prides itself on. But the moment I stepped forward to offer her a cup of tea, everything changed. "Is this for real?" she said, snickering as she glanced at the delicate cups I had chosen. Her laugh echoed around the room, sharp and cutting. "Didn't you just buy these from some cheap shop?" I froze. My hands trembled slightly as I set the tray down. I had spent hours selecting those cups, thinking about the simple elegance that would impress her, hoping to bridge the gap between us before the wedding. Yet here she was, mocking me in front of my son, in front of the family. Armin laughed nervously, trying to diffuse the tension. "Mom, she's just joking," he said, but I could see the discomfort in his eyes. I smiled politely, but inside, a storm was brewing. I had always believed that respect wasn't demanded, it was earned. And if someone couldn't show basic courtesy to the people who had raised their future spouse, then they had a serious lesson to learn. Over the next few days, Sarah continued to test boundaries. She criticized the way I cooked, commented on my clothes, and even laughed at my old-fashioned ways. Each word felt like a needle, pricking deeper into my patience. My friends advised me to let it go, to not make a scene, but I knew that if I remained silent, this behavior would continue. Armin might forgive her easily, but life is not just about forgiveness, it's about accountability. Then came the day that changed everything. The wedding was scheduled in 2 weeks. Invitations were sent, flowers ordered, the hall booked. But my heart wasn't in it. I kept thinking about that laugh, the disrespect, and the lessons I had wanted my son to learn about choosing a partner wisely. Late at night, I sat alone in the kitchen, sipping tea and thinking. Could I really stop a wedding at this point? The answer came swiftly, almost instinctively. If Sarah thought she could treat me with mockery and walk away unscathed, she was gravely mistaken. Respect, after all, is non-negotiable. I began making calls the next morning, quietly, carefully. I spoke to the wedding hall manager, the caterer, even the priest, explaining in vague terms that the wedding had been postponed indefinitely. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't shout. I simply acted. When Armin came home that evening, he found me sitting calmly in the living room, sipping my tea as if nothing had happened. What do you mean the wedding is cancelled?" he stammered, panic rising in his eyes. I looked up at him, calm but firm. "I mean exactly that. The wedding will not happen until respect is restored, until Sarah understands the value of humility and courtesy." He couldn't believe it. He pleaded, argued, even threatened to go behind my back and organize it himself. But I only shook my head. Actions, I explained, have consequences. You cannot enter a family without honoring those who have nurtured your partner. By the end of that evening, word had reached Sarah. And when she arrived, dressed in her wedding finery, expecting to celebrate, the shock on her face was something I'll never forget. I didn't yell. I didn't humiliate her publicly. I simply explained, in front of the entire family, why the wedding could not proceed. Her laughter that had haunted me for days returned, but this time, it was nervous, unsure. For the first time, she realized that disrespect has consequences, and the power she thought she held was slipping away. And in that moment, I knew part 2 would require even more patience, strategy, and a careful balance of justice and compassion. The next morning, Sarah called me. I didn't pick up. She texted apologies, promises, even gifts. I read them all, but I didn't respond. I knew she had to feel the weight of her actions, the shame of laughing at someone who had only tried to welcome her. Armin was furious. "Mom, this is crazy. She's young. She doesn't understand our traditions." I looked him in the eye. "Do you understand what it means to disrespect someone who raised you?" I asked softly. "Do you know how easy it is to laugh at kindness when you've never learned humility?" He opened his mouth to argue, but I continued. This is about teaching responsibility. She must realize that life isn't about entitlement or mocking others, it's about respect. Over the next week, Sarah tried everything: messages, calls, even coming over with Armin. I didn't say much, only allowed her to see how life continued around her. Family dinners went on without a word of acknowledgement from her. The house felt normal, calm, almost indifferent. That silence was louder than any argument. Slowly, I noticed the change. The arrogance in her messages softened. She started asking about small things: my health, the family, even my tea recipes. I responded minimally, careful not to reward the behavior prematurely. Then came the real turning point. She arrived at the door, unannounced, carrying a humble gift. Not something extravagant, just flowers, with a note. I am truly sorry. I see now that I have been disrespectful, and I want to make amends. I let her in, and we spoke, not about the wedding, not about Armin, but about respect, humility, and understanding. I shared stories of my own youth, the lessons I had learned the hard way. Slowly, her laughter faded, not entirely, but enough that it no longer cut like a knife. A month later, when Armin called me to say the wedding could finally proceed, I looked at Sarah and smiled. She had changed, not entirely, but enough to earn the right to be part of our family. And as we all sat together for that rescheduled ceremony, I realized that standing firm, teaching respect, and demanding accountability had worked. Sometimes, love isn't just about accepting someone blindly, it's about guiding them toward humility. And sometimes, the most powerful lessons are taught not in anger, but in calm, unwavering conviction. That day, as Sarah held Armin's hand and promised to cherish him, I quietly poured myself a cup of tea, savoring the moment. Respect had been restored, laughter was no longer a weapon, and my son had learned the most important lesson about choosing a partner.